Alright, I've already wet this in the bathtub or sink or whatever, hot water, and I've cut it to shape using the measurements that I took when I first began. So on the center line here, we're going to set this on our lines on the buck, which is right there. And we're not in any hurry. There's plenty of time to do this because it'll take, some time for the water to evaporate, so no need to rush. You can position it exactly as you want it. And then I'm going to get a piece of tape so it doesn't move, and I'm going to tape it down. Now, Bob Hunt's been taping his leading edges instead of wrapping them. I'm not sure that would work in this case because this is such a compound molded type situation. Doesn't look like the tape wants to stick. So we're going to have to forego the tape. So we'll use the ace bandage. So it's on the line, centered up there, and we'll get the bandage working. Well, we're lucky here in Missouri. It's starting to snow. Isn't that marvelous? Anyway, we'll get the first wrap on this. I'm not sure you can see what I'm doing. I probably should reposition the camera. So I'm holding this here, and we're just going to start wrapping it around. Holding the buck between my legs and making sure that our piece is exactly where I want it. Now you'll start to notice as you get up to the front here, because it's a compound curve, that it doesn't sit down on here, so we're going to have to relieve that. So I've gone as far as I need to go there, and we'll start relieving it. Now, in order to relieve this, I just do this by eye. It's best to have a helper, 2 people, when you're doing this. But I don't have anybody, so I got to do it myself. Anyway, I'm going to make a slit here. One slit is not going to be enough because it's rather compound. Not even close to enough. We're going to have to back this off some. So what I've done is I put 3 slits in this. I want to take my time doing this one because I want this Thunderbolt to be my absolute best that I've ever done. because I doubt I do another one. What we're going to do is we're going to cut a wedge out of this wood. Now I can't remember, I probably should get my compound molding tapes out again and see if, I can't remember whether they just, let's try it, because we're only doing the cowl. So I know next time. What I'm going to try is, instead of cutting it down and gluing it like I normally do, I'm just going to pull it down and we'll cut it after it dries. We'll wedge it out and glue it after it dries. We'll see if that works. I suppose it really doesn't much matter. See, that goes inside here. Rather difficult without a helper. Suppose I ought to watch Al Rabe do this. He's the guy who's been doing it the longest. I'm going to zoom in and give you a shot of what I'm talking about, what the overlap is, before I close that off. Okay, let's zoom in here. If you look here on this area, I pulled it together and it's overlapping, one like a set of cards, and we're going to pull that in, let it dry, and then I'll cut the wedges out. And when I cut the wedges out, I will come back to this video. But I want to make sure that it's completely down on that former at F1 so that it meets the bulkhead. Remember, these skins are only as good as your mold, so do a nice job on your mold. Okay. Piece of tape here to hold this bandage. I guess if you had to consider who is the father of the modern day stunt molding, it'd have to be Al Rabe. However, molding wood has been around for centuries. Well, there you have it. We have our cowl in place. It's right on our line that I wanted. It's right even with that, so we're good there. And now we'll just let the part dry by the heater. It's snowing outside, so the heat's on. And we'll be back. See you in a bit. Okay, because I didn't soak this wood a long time, it didn't, I got a little button up there. It didn't take long for it to dry. So what I'm going to do now, if you'll notice, here's the slits that I cut in the wood before I wrapped it. Now we're going to relieve that. And I'm going to show you how I join it. Pretty tough to do this by myself. Need my other ruler. There we go. It's a long cut on the bottom, but it needs relieved. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting through both layers. If I had a helper, I could hold this. Let's try this vise. So we're pulling it over the top here, and we're going to split the difference, and I'm going to cut right down the center with a sharp razor blade and then pick out the slivers. And the same with this one. Then we're going to pull it together and reinforce it with some carbon veil. Now, these are not my ideas because I had no clue how to do this molding before watching the Bob Hunt molding video. My ideas was entirely different and it didn't work. So this is all derived from Billy Werwage and Bob Hunt. So now we're going to pull this together and tack it, and And these are the little wedges that I took out, little triangles, so to speak. And that fits the mold pretty good. I guess we got one more we could relieve right here. Actually it's on the top here. It needs to be cut out a little more and pulled together. Very hard to show on camera because I have to move it wherever I have to move it. Trying to pick out this sliver here and it don't want to come out of there. There we go. Okay. So hopefully you get the basic idea on what I'm doing here. I'm just removing the wood slivers like this to make it fit the mold. The buck. Then what I'm going to do once I get this all joined is I'm going to shoot it with Windex and put it back on the buck and wrap it up and let it sit. So now in order to strengthen these cuts up, we're going to take some .2/10 carbon veil. We're going to cut these into strips. Okay, that's enough. So we got 3 cuts, so we need 3 strips. Cut this in thirds. And then along those cut marks that we put in there, we're going to position this veil and flood it with Sunset CA. That CA stuff stinks. Woo-wee. There. Now I'll hit it with a little kicker. Whew, stinks. And a piece of wax paper. What I normally do is I put a piece of wax paper on the buck, put the piece that I'm doing back on there. You'll notice I got kind of a hole there where I overcut it, so I'm going to stick a piece of wood back in here. We got plenty of slivers. Alright, now to finish it off, I take some sandpaper. And grind that off. I might have to make this tape in a couple of cuts because you really can't see exactly what I'm doing on each step of the way, and it's kind of important that the steps are taken. So now I'm going to clean up the front of this so that it's all nice, and you just put it on the buck, and we're going to sand right up to F1. Oop. A little too aggressive there. Came out pretty nice. You know, I'm sure that you know, some of the other guys do it a little different or whatever, but this is how I do it. Sand out on all the scratch marks you just put in from the 80 grit, 320. So we've just made our cowl. I'll trim it after I get some bulkheads in it. Let's see what it weighs. Very light. .35 for the cowl. So this is what I'm talking. This is where I split the wood to relieve it so it would pull together, and this is where I joined it with the carbon fiber veil and the CA. .35. I'm going to trim it up anyway. And the trick is when I go to make this back half, that I butt it right up against where the split is so that it fits perfectly when I put it on the airplane. Now I just taped it back on. I just taped it back on the mold buck where it belonged. We have quite a bit that I need to trim off of this. Probably best do it with a razor blade. Well, I think I'm not gonna cut it right now. So we'll be back when I get another shot on doing the back half. So see you in a bit. Okay, this is just a short update of what I'm doing on the Thunderbolt. I'm not really doing a build along with the Thunderbolt. I'm more or less just showing you my progression. On the last video, or a video that I haven't uploaded yet, I showed you how I molded the cowl. And I'm kind of engineering the cowl right now, and what I wanted to show you is I'm cutting these air outlet holes. And how I did that was with a skived piece of brass. You skive the inside and round the holes. I used these pieces of tape to kind of give me a guide so they were more or less even for the cutouts. But on the engineering aspect, we have to think that we're going to be using this model. So this particular area that I've cut away here is going to be rather weak. So in order to strengthen that up, what I had in mind was running a stiffener inside this, and we're just going to cut a piece of the 3/32, a 1/4 inch strip. It doesn't add much extra weight. I mean, a gram, not even a gram, a grain. It's on the nose anyway. But it will add a considerable amount of strength when you're handling the model. You gotta, remember you're going to be using this model to play with. So, I want to get this fit as exact as possible. I've been doing some thinking on how I want to engineer the cowling system. Well, I didn't get it close. So, no problem, we'll cut another piece. I want that piece to fit good. So make it a little larger and sand the shape. Going to have to clean the shop up today. And I'm going to do, even though I don't have the wood for doing the Excalibur, I'm going to show you how I'm going to cut the holes for so what I've done is I've cut a piece of balsa wood to go inside the cowling from bulkhead to bulkhead, standing on edge. And that will strengthen that piece where your helper's hand's going to go when they pick up the airplane. So we'll tack it in here. Is this necessary? I don't know. Better safe than sorry. Sure hate to build a real nice model and then the first time you take it out and handle it, you break it. And as I stated, this piece of wood won't add any no substantial weight gain. So this is the air outlet for the cowl. I'm going to open this up here. I guess it would be better to a little more of a little more meat. And then I'll open this one up here as well. This is the piece. Let me zoom out a little bit. Maybe that would help. First we have the nose ring that goes on the front that gets glued to the motor mount. Behind that we'll have this piece here. I just made this bottom piece. This is going to be glued on permanently. I made this bottom piece removable so I could get my hand in there to put the motor inside. And this part here, the cowling, will be screwed on as such. And we have to sand and fit and make sure all these fits are good. So that was the update on that. Now the next update I'd like to talk about is last night I got an email from Tower Hobby and they gave me a Christmas gift. So I figured for my Christmas gift I would look on their site and see what I could get. I found that they have a P47 Razorback 1/8 inch scale, which is basically what this is. There's a 63-inch wingspan. This one's 62. The Pilot was 1/8 inch scale. But they had a bubble canopy conversion. So I ordered that, and hopefully we're going to get the canopy, the correct canopy for it. And they have an 1/8 inch cockpit, including the instrument panel, seat, stick, side panels. Now we know that stuff, because it's RC, is going to be heavy. And years ago I had bought a vacuform, a Mattel vacuform off eBay, and I paid $75 for it. But what I plan on doing is taking those pieces out of that kit, using the vacuform to vacuforming ultra lightweight pieces of plastic to put inside the canopy or the cockpit. And I thought I would do a cockpit like Wendy did, where it's just a square box that you can take in and out of the model. So we're going to be doing a cockpit detail video. But there you have it. There's my cowl. And how it's going to be mounted is I'm going to sand some pieces of 1-inch balsa to this arc right here, fit it down in there. Then we're going to glue this to a piece of 64th plywood so it's got a nice surface. And I'm going to drill down through this way and run some aluminum tubing in there so we have a place for the bolt to go through, and that'll be held on with 4 aluminum screws. Basically the same way I did my other Thunderbolts, only the whole cowl came off. And I just wanted to make this nose, because this is electric and there is torque up here, I wanted to make this nose kind of unit construction. So that's what we have here once this piece is glued on, like so. And what I'm showing here is the thought that has to go into these airplanes while you're designing them. You know, you could throw it together and in no time, and yeah, it would look like what you're going to make it look like, but it would be totally unserviceable. So what I want to do now, this buck out of the way. What I want to do now is open this up. Now remember, I'm trying to make this longevity, so I'm going to harden that after I sand it. I'm going to harden that up with CA. A lot of people use light ply in this instance, but we're just going to use CA and light ply, or the 64th plywood. And now this bulkhead will have to be cut out to match this so that the air can pass through. Pretty straightforward operation, just something to, I don't know. I really like building these airplanes. They challenge your mind. Mine anyway. Making it look better and better each one. Well, I'd really like to have a piece of wood in there. For some reason it's got a booger. Now, this bulkhead here remains solid, and I had cut two of those, one to fit inside each other, and we're going to cut this piece away because this bulkhead goes on the fuselage, and the back skin, the tail skin, mounts to this, and it bumps up flush. But you wanted to leave yourself enough overhang that you could fit it. Thought I'd do a little camera in hand. Got to get the mess cleaned up, but you get to look inside a little better of what I'm coming up with. Now, I've revamped the idea. There's the motor mount, and this will be glued permanently on the nose, and the cowl comes in afterwards. I've got to make sure those fits are a little better. I've kind of revamped the idea on how I'm going to do the battery. I'm going to do a side loader like Tom did. It seems to be a real valid option. So I thought I'd just give you a little bird's eye view of what this build looks like. It's very light so far. Very light. So we'll see you in a bit.